What if the most important financial conversation that we as women should be having are also the ones that we are most often skipping? Why is it that women are successfully working, saving, raising families, giving back to our communities, and yet so many of us still feel financially behind? And then, not to mention, we're going out to dinner and we're talking about travel and planning our next vacation to Europe, skincare and our skincare routines, what dermatologist we're going to, all of the time that we're spending looking for product and researching the label on the back. We talk about reality TV shows. We know every character and our favorite TV series. We'll talk about kids and our grandkids and how we want the best for them. Maybe we're donating to their school. And heck, we'll talk about bikini waxing before we're even going to get into finances. So, what about our wealth? Okay. The truth is that women face unique hurdles. And when it comes to building long-term wealth, our financial security is so important. And pretending that it's not, and pretending that we don't face unique hurdles, does us zero favors. And that's exactly what I want to unpack here today. So, welcome to my show, Growing Her Wealth, the show that gives women like you the straight talk and honest answers that you need to sustain yourself and your wealth throughout your life. I'm your host, Danielle Meister, a financial advisor with Madrona Financial and CPAs. I'm going to take you full spectrum: wealth, tax, real estate, estate planning, retirement, and beyond. We're going to talk about all of it. So, do you ever feel like you're doing all the right things? And I mean, grinding at work, we're taking care of everybody, and we're still so unsure, or we feel like we're falling behind on all the big financial and tax decisions. Honestly, it's not just you. We were never taught or never educated on finances or taxes. I mean, think about it. When you sat down at the dinner table as a kid, were you talking about taxes with your family members? I can tell you that there's not a chance that we were sitting down and talking about money or wealth. And they certainly weren't teaching us that stuff in high school. And I mean, I think about it, and my kids, I mean, granted that they're 6 and 8, none of their classes are, and I look at the high school and what they're going to get into, and nothing in the school system right now is gearing them up for the financial realities of growing their wealth and having to deal with these things in life. So don't be hard on yourselves. This is more people have never been introduced to any of this. It's a language and there's acronyms and it feels tricky. But just like learning the language of travel and the language of skincare and the language of, anything else that you're maybe interested in learning about, we just need to take some time to learn about it so that we can get really good at it. Okay. So the part that people really don't realize is that financial planning for women is not just about rates of return and picking what stock is hot or not. I mean, maybe if you're working with just a stockbroker, or if you're listening to, you know, one of the stock shows on TV, you're going to think that investing is all about just picking Apple and pushing the button to buy and sell. But that's really not what this is about. It's about navigating the real life decisions and the choices that you need to make throughout your life with clarity and confidence. Okay. So I want to know, like, why aren't we talking about money? And yes, I will admit that it's deeply personal and it's tied to people's deeply rooted feelings of self-worth and confidence. And we probably have some past traumas around money. I know I do. I look back to when I went to college and I had to pay for college. I worked my way through college and I left college with hefty financial loans. And I think back to my first Thanksgiving when I got out of college, and that was from June until November. And I had no savings and I didn't really know anybody where I was. I was living away from my family and I was so broke. And I had a job, but I was so broke trying to cover the cost of rent and paying bills and all these things that I had never done before. And I was not even breaking even on what was coming in and what was going out. So that first Thanksgiving, I walked over to the Albertsons grocery store and I got a microwave meal. And that Thanksgiving, I sat on my couch with my cat and I ate a microwave meal. And so I know that, for me, wealth is, I'm driven to earn money and I want to have a secure financial future because there was a point in my life where the finances were not secure. And so for me, it's, I want to pass this, what I've learned on to you guys, because it can make a huge difference in your long-term wealth building. So it's true. There's this saying, and I want to make sure that I touch on it, but people get rich acting like they're poor, and people stay poor acting like they're rich. And I think that's really important for people who are just getting started, especially. So just like, just like we start getting more comfortable discussing things like wellness, and this is like things that used to be taboo, but as we get more comfortable discussing these things like fertility and miscarriage and menopause and mental health, talking about financial health is vital. And we need to get more comfortable doing it because we'll get better at it. Money provides you the ability to spend more money on the things you love. So we need to get financially savvy. And this will allow you to experience time with loved ones, European vacations, maybe that skincare routine that you've been wanting, the handbag you've been eyeing. Maybe you want to remodel your kitchen. These things don't happen by making big financial mistakes. They happen by getting the very small decisions routinely right. And that's where I want to help. Okay, so stay here with me. The first thing I want to get into here today is the high cost of earning less and giving more. All right, the first thing we need to talk about is, especially as mothers and caretakers of loved ones, that we are earning less over our lifetimes. And a lot of times this is caused by a career break. And think about a career break. You start in your 20s, you're working, maybe in your late 20s or early 30s, you start having kids, and you think, I want to take a little bit of time off to raise my family. And some people maybe take 6 months off. Some people don't have the luxury to. Maybe other people take off 6 years, 10 years. And all of a sudden, for them, they haven't been contributing to a 401k plan and they haven't been putting money into Social Security and those contributions and getting their Social Security credits. Maybe you did work from 20 until 45 or 50 or even 60, and all of a sudden you had an elderly parent that you needed to take care of. And I've got a lot of clients that are in this situation right now. And they planned to work longer, but they had to stop working and take a little bit of time off before going back to take care of a parent. You guys, especially when it's early in your life, not getting these contributions in can have a massive impact on compounding growth. And compounding growth is the magic of growing wealth over time. So that means, again, smaller 401ks, smaller IRAs, which amounts to less income later. It amounts to smaller Social Security payments. I heard some statistic like women end up getting $100,000 less in income over 20 years once they turn Social Security on, just because their Social Securities are smaller. Okay, and we're living longer, you guys. Our money has to stretch longer. So it's like we're getting less money into retirement accounts and we're living longer, so we need it to last longer. And not to mention, we are more likely to prioritize gifting to our kids, family, and charitable organizations. So we have less money, we have to live longer, and we're giving more of it away. You guys, we have got to have some better strategies here to make sure that we're lined up and we're geared up to not run out of money. So I know we are so selfless, and all of this comes down to all of the work that we are doing for others. But we've got to think about what we can do to put ourselves in a position for financial success. One, auto contributions. I want you to think about this. If you're back in the workforce and you have a retirement account, whether it's an IRA, a SEP, a simple, a 401k, a TSP, I don't care what it is, get into that account and turn on your auto contributions and dial those things up as much as you can possibly handle. You can always dial it back. Turn it on as an auto contribution and do not put this off. Okay. The other thing is, I want, if there's an option to increase your contribution each year, like by 1% or 2%, just do it. It's a set it and forget it, and you'll thank yourself later. Okay. Number two, our next big blind spot here is underinvesting. Once you've gotten these contributions into a 401k or an IRA, people are forgetting one of the most important steps. Women, ladies, we are great savers, but we usually stop there because we've got this like toxic belief, and we say that we're not investors and we say that we're conservative. And it's this false narrative that women have just come to believe, and it's not true. Just like anything else, we can identify as investors and we can identify as being as not being conservative. All right. So we need to stop this chatter and this conversation in our brain. Stop saying, I don't like the stock market. All right. Conservatism is costing us hundreds of thousands of dollars over a lifetime. Okay. A dollar that's sitting in cash is losing purchasing power, and it's not getting any of the magic of compounding growth. Okay. I'm going to stop here for a second because I've got a client. She came to us and she was at her retirement age. She had been saving for 30 years into a company retirement plan. So she came to us with a couple $100,000. And what she didn't understand is why her colleagues around her were retiring with $1 million. And when I asked her, okay, so where were you invested? She said, well, I don't like the stock market. So the stock market scares me. I'm in money market. And I told her, well, that's the difference in your retirement. Your colleagues were invested in the market. Over, since the 1950s, the stock market over time is up 10% per year. Their accounts grew to over $1 million. They get to retire and you don't. So that's the difference, guys. That's what we're talking about here. Okay, next conversation. We cannot skip being left out of the conversation with our partners. And this is so important when it comes to financial decision making. We're being left out of the conversation, yet 75% of women are going to outlive their husbands. If you've never, think about this, if you've never been in the driver's seat before, it's a pretty scary time to start learning at your spouse's passing. And studies consistently say over and over again, widows regret not being involved sooner. And think about if let's say that your husband or your spouse has been in the driver's seat since you guys got married. And, let's just say it's a long marriage and, you got engaged when you were young and now you're at 20, 30, 40 years of not making any of the decisions or not being involved in any of the conversation around where are you invested? What kind of tax decisions are you making? What are the usernames and passwords to get into your retirement accounts? Do we know how many credits that we have to earn Social Security? Have we discussed our Social Security strategy? And if we're going to let one of the Social Securities last a little bit longer in case one spouse does outlive the other spouse? If you haven't talked about any of this, then you're in the driver's seat after 50 years of not having any practice. And I almost didn't believe this when I was reading a study that said 50% of widows are living paycheck to paycheck after a spouse passed away. And then only 6% of those people are meeting with a financial advisor or a CPA. You guys, come on. There are people out there that can help you. And honestly, I do think a lot of the time the planning up front is so important. It's this late stage planning and these late stage mistakes that are really costing. And at the time of a spousing or a big life event or a big change, or ladies, a divorce, okay, would be another example of a big change that is the loss of a partner. If you haven't been part of the conversation for 50 years, are you really going to Google search and chat GPT to get your life and your finances right? You have one time to get this right. This is not the time to try and piece it together and, make the financial mistakes. Okay. I want you to do one more thing. Think about yourself. Think about that last vacation that you planned for. How much time did you plan looking for the perfect flight? You wanted a direct flight, not something that connected. And then you wanted the perfect time. And then you researched the vacation spot hotel room. And you look at the 3 star versus the 4 star, and you decide, how much do I want to spend and how much do I want to save? How much time am I going to spend in my hotel room versus do I want to take extra savings and maybe put that into a nice dinner and maybe some of the experiences that I'm going to have when I get there. You guys are really good at researching things. Okay. Let's take the time to research our wealth like we research these vacations or we research an experience. Maybe you're not into travel, but you're into working on, maybe you're into woodwork or metalwork or art and you spend time researching a certain medium. I mean, it's the same for anything that you're passionate about. Okay, let's move on to the last and final thing that I want to talk about here today. And that's women are skipping the conversation on taxes. Lifetime tax burden can be such a financial vulnerability here. And so, why are we not getting savvy about it? We love shopping a sale. We research the different stores. We can't wait for Black Friday. And for what? So we can keep more money in our pocket, right? Let's think about taxes the same way as April 15th. Tax deadline, personal, individual tax deadline is our Black Friday. And so we need to gear up for this. And we cannot be planning at the very last minute or we're going to miss out on everything. We need to be planning well in advance. And when we're talking about taxes, it means we need to be planning before December of the prior year. My goal for you is to pay less in taxes over your entire lifetime and keep more money in your pocket. There are so many ways to be tax savvy. I just want to talk about 3. The first one is Roth conversions. So a Roth conversion, to keep it really simple, think about it like this. What if you could pay taxes in a really low tax bracket and then for those funds that you paid really low taxes on, say 12%, you could then move those funds into another account where it will grow and you'll never pay taxes on that money again. Not on the growth, not when you take it out, nothing. It's tax free. That's a Roth conversion. Okay. The thing is, you need to know how to do it. And we need to be able to look at a tax return and do a proper tax analysis on it to do it's called tax bracket optimization. So it sounds scary, but you're able to do it. And you usually can do it with a CPA, and you usually can do it at the end of a tax year to find out where did you end up in your tax bracket and where do we maybe have some space. Great opportunities here for you ladies when you're taking time out of the workforce. If you're taking time off because you just had a baby, or you're taking time out to help a loved one and you are not working, even if it's 1 year after retirement, before you turn on Social Security, lots of little windows when we can do Roth conversions. Okay, let's not miss those opportunities. Number 2, tax opportunity. It's called a QCD. That's just a fancy acronym for a qualified charitable distribution. So you're going to sound so smart with your pickleball friends and if you're golfing, and especially if you're a church or a temple goer, that this is going to be a secret in your back pocket for being able to give tax-free. Now, I need to give a quick caveat here. It only works if you are age 70 and a half. So if you're nearing that age, hang on to this strategy, put it in your back pocket. Just know there's other tax strategies if you're not quite 70 and a half. But this one specifically is that if you have IRAs or 401ks, you can gift from those accounts once you're over 70 and a half, and you don't pay taxes, and neither does the charity. It has to be a qualified charitable organization, but it's a massive tax win. Do not write a check from your checkbook and do not give cash, because that savings there for both you and the charity is like up to 30%. So 30% back in your pocket because it didn't go to Uncle Sam. Okay. The third tax strategy where we're going to get savvy. I'm going to go a little morbid here for a second, and I'm going to talk about a taboo subject because that's what we do here. And I want to make sure that we're planning for what's called the widow's penalty. And again, I'm 42. I'm not sitting at dinner talking about when my husband dies. But the thing is why are we not having these conversations? Because tax filing status shifts is a massive additional burden to women. And if we're not thinking about it and we're not prepared for it, it's putting a massive burden on our expenses. So how are we going to solve for it? Where's the money going to come from to pay for it? So here's how it works. If your spouse passes away and you're married filing jointly, and let's say you're in the 12% tax bracket, that spouse passes away and it kicks you up into the 22% tax bracket, for example. And on top of that, you face steeper Medicare surcharges, or they call them the IRMA surcharges. And these brackets are a cliff. So, like, once you go over that cliff, so sad, too bad. In a lot of cases, you could be paying the extra Medicare for 2 years. So, we should really work on getting this right and planning in advance. Okay. I know that that's a really heavy subject, but having a strategy there makes a lot of sense. Okay, that's the widow's tax penalty. So, how do we take this insight and actually turn it into action? Because I need your awareness, this heightened awareness that we have to build your confidence. Number one step, if you've stepped out of the workforce to raise kids and you're getting back into the workforce now, work on prioritizing funding retirement accounts. Okay. So get into that account, turn on an automatic contribution, and turn on the automatic annual increases. Number two, if you've always been conservative and sitting in cash, take one small step to getting into a market-based portfolio and a diversified ETF or an index fund. You can do this really easily. I don't care if you open it up with Schwab or Wells Fargo or Vanguard, Fidelity. Anybody out there makes it really simple. But if you give up decades of growth opportunity and the magic of compounding, you're either going to be working longer or spending less in retirement, neither of which I want me or my friends having. Number three, if you have been hands off in your household, make a commitment to be part of the conversation. Just say, I want to understand this investment account that we have. I've never known much about it, and I'd love to know, where is it? How do we have it invested? Why do we have it invested this way? Or maybe what are some tax strategies that we could do as a household to put more money back in our pockets? Or guys, even and I'm talking husbands, the greatest gift that you can give your spouse, and this is to husbands out there that I think are really well intentioned, is to invite your spouse into the conversation. Ask them to join you. Okay. Even if you're well intentioned and something happens, you're leaving them compromised. Okay. The last one, number four, get tax savvy. Let's lower our lifetime tax bill. It sounds really tricky and complicated, but if you get down some of the basics and we start knowing where to look, it can be quite easy. And at the end of the day, if any of this feels really overwhelming, it's so easy to hire a professional. And I'm saying, like, not a life insurance agent, not a stockbroker. They specialize in products. And not even a CPA who just files your tax return, but a CPA who can actually do forward-looking planning for you. I know that sounds a little bit tricky. Like, how do I even find that right person? And look, I understand the financial advisory industry has gotten kind of a bad rap because of insurance salespeople pushing annuities, or someone who claims to be a fiduciary, or maybe they're even licensed to be a fiduciary, but they don't know the first thing about integrating tax planning. They don't know how to look at a Schedule E. They don't know estate planning. They don't know what a credit shelter trust for provision is. They don't understand estate tax planning exemptions. Look, they are all likely good people, but with limited knowledge. Being a truly good advisor to be able to discuss all of this, cash flow planning, taxes, investments, gifting, legacy, and incorporating it into your lifestyle planning, it's really hard to do this. And an advisor who can do it all, shop around to find the right person. Don't hire the first person. And same with finding somebody who can do your taxes and estate plan. Shop around to find a really good estate planning attorney that'll talk to your advisor. You guys, these people exist, and there are truly really good ones out there that can help you with all of this. Okay, This week, I'm going to challenge you to one thing. I want you to pick one area that you've been avoiding and take one little step forward, whether it's scheduling a meeting with an advisor of some sort, a CPA, an estate planning attorney, I don't care. Set up a retirement account or even just log in and review your investment accounts. If you're like, I think I have an HSA account out there somewhere, maybe we should go find them and maybe start consolidating them. Okay, that's a lot to unpack for today. But remember, small actions build the momentum for huge financial change. And the key takeaway is this: women, ladies, we cannot afford to sit this conversation out. Please do not skip it. Thanks for spending time with me today on Growing Her Wealth. If today's episode helped you, please share it with a friend who needs to hear it as well. And if you'd like to download the article that I also wrote on this subject, it's called The Money Conversation Women Can't Afford to Skip. Go to growingherwealth.com under resources. Until next time, keep growing, keep learning, and most importantly, keep building your wealth.